His Excellency, the Ambassador of the Kingdom of the Netherlands to Indonesia, His Excellency Rob Swartbol, Honorable Ibu Omi Komariah Madjid. She is the head of the Board of Trustees of Nurcholish Madjid Society. The Honorable Mr. Muhammad Wahyuni Nafis, the head of Nurcholish Madjid Society Foundation. The Honorable Representative of the House of Regional Representative Council, Professor Dr. Insinyur Hajjah Darmayanti Lubis. All the respected speakers, guests, and all the participants of the seminar, good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Before we begin the main discussion, first of all, we would like to welcome you all to this seminar, which is jointly held by two institutions, Nurcholish Madjid Society, and also in collaboration with the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Jakarta. And this seminar will discuss about a timely topic, or very hot topic in Indonesia, especially in the context of social and political situation in Indonesia right now. And the topic is the challenges to religious pluralism and tolerance. However, this topic is not only relevant to the Indonesian context, but also, as the matter of fact, the issue of religious pluralism and tolerance is also important and relevant to what has been going on in all parts of the world. That's why this seminar doesn't only invite Indonesian speakers, respected Indonesian speakers, but also it is an honor for us to have a speaker from the Netherlands who this person has been involved in managing the challenges of religious pluralism and tolerance in the Netherlands, and he is the Honorable Mr. Ahmed Aboutaleb. He is the first mayor in Rotterdam, a big city, one of the big city in the Netherlands, and he is originally from Morocco, and he is a Muslim. So please give big applause to all the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, many scholars have done their research, and all of them agree that living among diverse religion, cultures, and tradition is inevitable condition of human beings. In Indonesian context, the issue of religious pluralism and tolerance is still one of major issue, and I think the head of the NCM, Nurcholish Madjid Society, Wahyuni Nafis, just mentioned and explained the background why the topic of the challenges to pluralism and tolerance in Indonesia is still important topic for us. So for that reason, this topic will focus actually to explore two questions. First is to explore how we should approach the question of religious pluralism and tolerance in the particular time right now. And the second one, what are the elements that could encourage an enabling environment where solution to the above mentioned problems could be made. So I think this is the two questions would be discussed by all the speakers, but for sure the theme, the specific theme will be different. And I think this is very important for us to explore through your questions later on our session. And therefore, without further ado, I would like to invite our respected speakers. Let me introduce the speakers and give you a very brief introduction. First, Mr. Ahmed Aboutaleb is the mayor of Rotterdam since 2009, as I mentioned, and he is the first mayor of large city in the Netherlands, who is he is an immigrant originally from Morocco, and he is Muslim. And I think we are very curious and enthusiastic to hear about his experience dealing with this issue of challenges about religious pluralism and tolerance based on his experience in the Netherlands. And the second one, I would like to invite Kang Yudi Latif, Ph.D. Kang Yudi is respected young Indonesian Muslim scholars, and I think one of his book, the important book, is Negara Paripurna. And I think this is one of the reasons why he is now we call as Bapak Pancasila. Negara Paripurna, the perfect state. It reminds me to the title Al-Madinah Al-Kamila, but I don't think it's relevant or not. Maybe not, but Utopia. But this is in Arabic, I think the translation, is it correct, Pak Aboutaleb?
Yes, madam.
Yes. Al-Madinah Al-Fadila. And Kang Yudi also, I think we should congratulate him because he's just, currently, I think a couple of days ago, he was just currently appointed by the President of the Republic of Indonesia as the head of the new working unit to ensure that Pancasila will be there as the national ideology for Indonesian society. So once again, congratulations, Kang Yudi, for the new appointment. And later on, the third speaker, we will invite Professor Dr. Franz Magnis-Suseno, or we call him Romo Magnis. For sure, I think I don't have to explain more about his CV, but he is the professor at the Driyarkara School of Philosophy, and he's also known as a social and political analyst. He has received many awards for his dedication and important contribution, especially to the interfaith dialogue in Indonesia. And the fourth one, we will invite Reverend Martin Lukito Sinaga, Doctor of Theology. He is an ordained minister in the Simalungun Protestant Christian Church in Indonesia. And he earned his doctorate from Southeast Asia Graduate School of Theology. And I think he has shared his views through this short notes. Just want to make sure that everyone has this copy of the notes. And last but not least, I think we are still waiting for the last speaker. The last speaker is Mbak Yeni Wahid, but I was told that I think she is on the way to this seminar. So ladies and gentlemen, we will give each speaker around 15 minutes to share their ideas and point of views regarding challenges about religious pluralism and tolerance. And later on, after that, we will invite you to give comments and also to raise questions regarding the topic. So we would like to invite the first speaker, Mr. Aboutaleb, the Mayor of Rotterdam. Please, big applause to Mr. Aboutaleb.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a great honor for me to be in Indonesia. This is my fourth visit to hear me. My fourth visit to this great city, and it's always a good comment when you speak to people in this great country that you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Is that right? You always do that here? Yeah. The way of thinking that I have been established last 15 years in my career as a person who is involved in politics, but also in leading the second largest city in the Netherlands, which is an international city by dimensions. The leading motive is always that there is not a dominant religion, there is not a dominant culture when it comes to the big cities. The cities we run in the Netherlands are cosmopolitans. My city, for instance, counts 174 nationalities. 174 nationalities. So sometimes I joke, I say that I'm not only mayor of Rotterdam, but I'm kind of Secretary General of the United States of Rotterdam. So it's really important in such a city to work on peace and to work on common issues, to bring people together. And for that, I have a couple of tools that I can use to do that. First of all, the law, the Constitution. And the Constitution is very important, in my opinion, because Article 1 in the Constitution is meant to unite the nation and to tell everybody on the soil of the Netherlands, whether he is a resident or not, as soon as you are on the soil of the Netherlands, the government must treat you equally. So that is a fundamental thing. The government treats everyone equally. That is not only when it comes to the rights, people tend to claim first the rights, but also when it comes to the obligations. Equality means also equal paid taxes. So the obligation is also there, and it's very important. That article is very important. Then we have a couple of articles in the Constitution that deals with issues of freedom. And that's only freedom of speech, freedom of organizing your own trade union, freedom of gathering, freedom of establishing your own political party, but also very fundamental freedom of religion, to believe and not to believe. It's also a right not to believe. So in maintaining peace and maintaining security in a city like mine, it's really important to emphasize these elements. All rights and obligations and the equality of citizens. So you believe in a cow, be my guest. You believe in a river, be my guest. You bow towards Mecca, be my guest. You are an agnostic, be my guest. It's all possible. That makes to me as mayor that I am the mayor of all these people. I go to the churches when there is something to celebrate with Christmas, because I am the mayor of the Christians in my city. It's now Ramadan, so I go to visit some religious groups in the mosques because they are my citizens. And I go to the synagogue because the Jewish people in my city are also my citizens. And it's always very important to make clear that the government, in its acting towards citizens, it's neutral. If you are leading a diverse country or a diverse city, then the highest ranking officials must act as neutral as possible. Neutrality. So the first is equality, second is the freedoms, and the third is that the highest authorities must act independent and must treat everyone equally. Because Constitution is a dead letter. What counts is acting. The way citizens act and the way the leaders are treating everybody in the country. But don't forget the role of the citizens themselves, because the state can provide security for minorities, but that's not enough. I was visiting Istanbul a couple of years ago when the Netherlands was celebrating 400 years of relations between Turkey and the Netherlands. Nowadays, I think I'm not welcome anymore in Turkey because I had some troubles with a Turkish minister in my city. That's another issue. But when I was there, I visited the minorities, the Christians, the Armenians, and also the Jew. And the Jewish leader told me, we feel safe in this country, but we're not happy. We feel safe because the army and the police is protecting us, but we're not happy. Why? Because the citizens are not protecting us. So take it in your mind. How important it is that citizens, minorities have the feeling to be protected by the neighbors, to be protected by people in the neighborhood. Why? Because you are a community. So that is concerning the law, which is very important. In a lot of countries, and not only in the predominantly Muslim countries, if they are based on democracy, unfortunately there is a lot of Muslim countries that are not based on democracy. That's another issue. But if there are free elections, that to me, three important elements that count into a democracy. The first one is one man, one vote. Everyone has a right to vote. It's very important. That's the basic rule of democracy. But the second rule in democracy is the majority has the right to form a government. Whatever the majority is, 50% plus one is a majority. But the most important third element in a lot of countries that are based on one big religion, a lot of things go wrong there. because the third basic rule is that the majority has the obligation to protect minorities. And protecting minorities does not mean only tolerate them, because tolerance is also ignorance. Let me show you that, ladies and gentlemen, what I mean with tolerance is ignorance. That it is. You are there. It doesn't matter to me what you are doing. Be my guest, but don't no interaction whatsoever. Ignoring people. That's tolerance. That is too little to me, because tolerance means really the very fundamental approach to the other. To be curious to the other. Why is the other acting the way he is acting? And maybe that can be also the beginning of the acceptance of the other. Hopefully leads tolerance to acceptance. So protection of minorities is not only a word, it has also with sharing power. That the majority invites the minority to share the power, to be in government, to be in local councils, to be in neighborhood councils, to share power. That's really important. In a cosmopolitan city like mine, we have no choice but to act like this. I have been watching last months with a lot of sadness how Christians in Egypt are slaughtered. Why? For the simple reason because they are Christians. Well, let me move from democracy and the rule of law to a basic statements in the religion that are to me as a Muslim very important too. And I was told by my father, who was an imam for a great deal of his life, and I never forget the ayah, which is also very important in organizing my identity as a Muslim. يا أيها الناس بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وخلقناكم شعوب وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم. But it is clear to me also as a Muslim. We're created man and female, and the main purpose of being on earth is not slaughtering each other. لتعارفوا, to know each other, to create bonds, to learn each other better. Why? إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم. التقوى. It's also very important. And is that a good thing to slaughter Christians in Egypt? Not to my mind. Not to my mind. And I don't know, I have no idea why people do that. لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ دِينِ is also another one. They have the religion and you have yours. Is there anything wrong with it? Are you responsible for the way they acting as human being on earth? There is no authority. That's to me very important. When I was in one of the television programs last 2 years ago, programming 3 hours on national television, I made a choice to show a little fragment of the movie Ar-Risala. I think all Muslims know the movie Ar-Risala, isn't it? And it's funny to see that fragment. That is the first group of Muslims surrounding the Prophet ﷺ in Mecca before Al-Hijrah, and he told them, move out Mecca because these people will slaughter you, and go to Habasha. Isn't it? Go to Habasha. Why? There is a Christian king, he will protect you. A Christian king will protect you. So the first, to my belief, the first Muslims have been protected in Ethiopia by a Christian king. So put in your mind, the first Muslims protected by the Christian. And nowadays, that Christian king is buried in a mosque. Did you know that? He is buried in a mosque in Ethiopia. There is a wonderful documentary made about that by Al Jazeera. You might find it on YouTube. He is buried in a mosque with a wonderful environment. I think 7 of the Muslims migrated then buried in the same location in the same mosque, and 5 are buried outside the mosque. There was no space for it. And Ethiopia is still today a Christian nation, not a Muslim nation. And what are the Muslims doing when they are in the majority in a couple of countries like Egypt? Is slaughtering Christians. Is that the way to say thank you? Is that a way to say thank you? In historical terms? I don't believe that. So it's a very complicated thing also for leaders when we talk about tolerance and acceptance, not only to refer to the laws, but also to very fundamental common values of human being. I very much like to act based on the Constitution and the law, but I also very much like to act on my own consciousness. I want to go to bed having the knowledge that I did the right thing and that I said the right thing to combine people to a solid community, to be resilient when it comes to attacking all these kinds of challenges in our society. And go back to the issue of Ahok. Indeed, it's a governor that I have been working with to the benefit of your city, but also to the benefit of my city. And I would never intervene as a foreigner in the internal matters of Indonesia. That's not to me. I want to intervene in the law. I will not intervene in the way the judge is acting. It's not to me. I will never say any word about that. That should be very wrong. But I know one thing for sure. He said in the newspapers, and I'm hopefully that I'm quoting him right, that if he was saying something wrong towards the Muslims, he said sorry, isn't it? He said sorry. So what can a Muslim do when somebody says sorry to him? Forgiveness. That should, Inna Allah ghafurun rahim. If God himself is willing to forgive people, why should people not forgive each other, one another? That's to me the most very... And it has nothing to do with the rule of law, nothing to do, I respect everything that is done in court, that's nothing to me. Talking about the society and talking about the duties of Muslims, forgiveness is really important, a very important element. The Quran and the Islam is based on the ones who do good things will get good things, the ones that are doing wrong things will be on another table, but at the end, always, in Allah ghafurun rahim. You may always ask God for forgiveness. But if God forgives people, then people should forgive people one another. That's to me a very fundamental. To me, and I will conclude by that, in my daily work is that I focus on what I call creating a we community. A we community. And I make always this symbol, a we community. It's a place where everyone has its own 1 square meter. And then people said, and journalists say to me, but who are not in the with the community? Well, in a sense, everybody. Unless you decide yourself not to be in the we community. It's your own decision. So the moment you dislike a cartoonist making a drawing, and he says, this is Prophet Muhammad, and you kill him by Kalashnikov, then you are putting yourself out of the we community. Because in the we community, there is no violence. There is only a debate. If you disagree with an artist, if you disagree with a journalist, then there is a debate. You write an article, you make your own drawing, whatever, and have a debate with the others. But it's not up to you to kill the other because you disagree with the other. Then we create chaos, and there is no rule of law. So the we community is really fundamental to create a sense of belonging. 15 million Muslims in Europe are now suffering, really suffering, in the public opinion due to actions of such individuals. And the Muslims are suffering in Europe. And the outcast nowadays of the people in Europe are the Muslims. Why? Because of the acts of such stupid terrorists. And if we disagree with them, then we have to say that. So I said on the television once, if you disagree with the freedoms of here in Europe, you disagree with the freedoms in France, why are you going to Yemen to learn to use a Kalashnikov and to come back and to kill innocent citizens? Go to Yemen and stay there. If there is a better place to be, go to Yemen and stay there. Don't come and kill people here. Here is the rule of law. If you disagree with someone, you go to court. Let me tell you, there are a lot of Muslims in Europe, in the Netherlands, who are not accepting my opinion. Well, I accept that. I accept that. And I continue to say this because this is really my consciousness. And I will never say things just to people because they will get an applause and the book. the Muslim community will say, well, this is a nice guy. He is always seeing things we like. But if you do that, then you're, from the very beginning, partisan, and you're not dealing with the feelings of the entire nation. And I have another responsibility than a religious leader. And this is a policy bringing people together, the most cheapest policy we have in the Netherlands, that is providing a cup of coffee. Not writing books, no television programs, just go into neighborhoods, which I do every 2 weeks, invite people like you here, and have talks with citizens. Everyone can come join us. We eat something, drink something, and have an open debate about the things that we have in common. I call it the we community. I would like to encourage everyone to do that, because in the metropolitan cities that we are now leading in the world, cities are becoming bigger and bigger, important and important. The economy is now economies of cities, and we become more and more diverse. So the only solution to keep all these citizens together is to act upon the philosophy of the we community. Maybe if we don't have the ideology in the Netherlands that you have here, we'll call it the ideology of Aboutaleb, the we community. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a very inspiring thoughts. So